My name is Vista Mandelbaum.
Hey everyone, and welcome to DW Entertainment. I'm Brett Cooper, and today we are talking about the Hyperions. It's Daily Wire's third film, and we are ready to talk to the people behind this original comedy. Joining us right here in the studio to talk everything Hyperions is Bonfire Legends CEO and producer Dallas Sonnier. Now Dallas, to start us off, what is your superpower?
Oh, my superpower is getting stuff done. I especially at the Daily Wire. It's like, I can move everyone and
Convincing Jeremy.
Get movies greenlit, get deals closed, raise money, all that kind of stuff.
I love it. And Skyping in from Los Angeles is Scott Martin. He's an actor and director, and he was an executive producer of Hyperions. We're happy to have you here, Scott.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Now, Dallas, I'd love to hear stories about how you first got involved with the Hyperions. Who brought it to you?
Yeah, we were looking to acquire movies for Daily Wire because we can only be on set so many times a year. And so we need to acquire finished films from third-party producers and things like that. So a friend of mine who's associated with the movie sent me the link. I watched it. I thought it'd be a great fit for Daily Wire. Sent it to Jeremy. Good news was he loved it too. And so we made a deal. And it was a great opportunity for all of us.
I love it. And why did you originally think that Jeremy and Daily Wire would be interested in Hyperions?
Well, we had made thrillers and action movies and all kinds of Western, right? All kinds of different genres. And we really didn't have a good comedy script in the wings that we felt like we could go make. And I thought, the Daily Wire audience would like to mix it up a little bit. So this is a cool opportunity to give them something a little bit different. It's different for Bonfire Legend. It's different for Daily Wire. Now, the fact that they loved it is just, an extra icing on the cake for me. But I think the audience will really, really adore it.
Now, Scott, I'm going to bounce over to you. I want to start at the beginning. So Hyperions was filmed in 2019. What did you know about Jon McDonald at the time and the origin of Hyperions?
I didn't know anything about Jon, to be perfectly honest. I was about, we came on a little late on the project, a little later in the process, and I saw about the first 15 minutes of it, and I called my partners and said, "We have to be a part of this movie. This thing's amazing." And continued on and started working with Jon and Leisha over there with his company. And the thing about Jon is, he's such a creative guy, and it's really hard to kind of pigeonhole the movie or say it's this or say it's that because it's so unique and so interesting. And that's just the way he works and the way his mind works, which is great, and it's fun to work with. And it's been a fun ride being a part of it.
And I read that it took a lengthy, almost 3 years in production, I think. Is that true, or why was that the case? Do you have any stories about that?
First, I think you kind of have to go back to production. What it is. When you're actually shooting a movie, making a movie, the production of it's a few weeks out of a several-year process. So you have development, you have pre-production, you have production, and then post-production. And Jon was doing a lot of the stuff himself, especially in the post-production with the visual effects and then the editing and all of that. And so because he didn't have a big studio behind him or something like that, it just took time. And these things take time. Typically you're in post for 6-9 months, maybe a year before it comes out. Because he was doing a lot of it himself, it took a little bit longer. But I think that's pretty standard for this kind of movie, for this movie.
Whenever you're making an independent movie, you don't have the giant studio behind you. Yeah. So Jon literally hand drew the animation. He built the props in pre-production. All these different things. And of course, there's tons of producers around, there's an editor and things like that. But when it's your creative vision and you have to build the thing, it can just take time. So this is like building a house almost.
And you're right. It's the attention to detail, and I think what a lot of people miss, especially in independent films, is that attention to detail, and that's what makes this stand out so much.
So the time period, it was 1960 to 1979. Was that a specific choice? I know that everything was, very detail-oriented in this film, so was there a reason behind it being that period?
Well, I think during that time period, obviously the world was much different than it is today. There's it also lends itself to a unique aesthetic, look-wise, and I don't think you could make the same story and same movie today because people will be expecting them to be going out of space and Marvel and the other things. But this time period is a little more innocent than probably now, and I think it just makes a lot more sense for the story.
Well, and this was the time period where Disney was making tons and tons of live action movies. In fact, Kurt Russell starred in many of them as a young boy. and they all ended up in the 80s as the old clamshell VHS boxes. And so, Jon was clearly, and he's talked to me about this, he was super inspired by those movies and that aesthetic. But Scott's right, that was a more innocent time period, and Disney was a different company then. And so, that time period was the golden age of the live action Disney clamshell VHS. So that's why the aesthetic looks like that.
I wanted to jump into some of our favorite moments from the film, but we have a couple of clips that you both picked out. I'd love to start with Dallas. So obviously nothing seems to go as planned in this film. Like the museum takeover scene illustrates that so perfectly. So I'd love to take a look at that scene, if we can pull that up.
Everybody against the wall. Ansel, your gun.
Oh, shit.
Get against the wall. Get against the wall. Now, make a little group. That's it. Together. Okay.
Yeah.
It's such a great scene. You've got the introduction of the museum setting, which 99% of the movie takes place. You've got the first time she's in the uniform, right? The sort of the superhero costume as an adult, and you have she's so close to getting what she needs, these Hyperion badges back, so that she can have her powers and her friends can too. I love that tracking shot coming up from right behind her, just the whack, she smashes the case, and then she reaches and the darn thing is locked. And it's just so sad. And you're just like, oh no. And in this scene, you look like Jon's placed the camera in really specific spots where the actors pop into the shots and then leave, or the camera whips around to get another perspective. And that stuff is super hard. Sometimes I'll admit on movies we get to set and we figure out what we're gonna shoot and what angle and all these kinds of things for that scene. This was not that. This was a very fine-tuned, calculated, crafted sequence that hit A, B, C, D, E, and that is so hard to do. So I just love that scene, and it gets the whole thing started, and everything ramps up from there.
I was gonna say, watching the film, it sets the stakes so high just from the get-go. And Scott, did you have any insight or comments about that specific scene?
When you watch it, it's what we kind of already discussed a little bit are all those props that are around. And Jon created such a world that you feel like you're in it, you believe it, you feel like you're there, and he did each one of those. When you're on set and you walk into a set like that and you have the wardrobe and everything is so precise, it helps the actors so much as they're working. And then on top of that, the feel that the audience gets from, as you said, the attention to detail. It's fun to watch, and you're kind of get immersed in that world pretty quickly.
Now, another clip that you pulled, Dallas, is the autograph sequence. So let's go ahead and run that one.
I robbed the place across the street 2 years ago.
Yeah, just give him some advice, that's all.
Yeah, cameras, knocking them down, how to deal with hostage negotiators. Oh, and you forgot to frisk me.
Pardon me.
See, that...
But I think you two need to tell the rest of us here what's going on. Is this real?
Yes,
ma'am, this is real.
Miss. And that's what I hate.
My name is...
A lot of people these days...
Whatever.
Would you mind signing this?
Well, I want that too.
I'm going to take the bullets out.
Would you mind taking the picture?
Maybe try this
not
out.
removable.
I mean, not
I
now.
was here first.
I'll show you the exhibits. You know, I know
How
everything.
close to the actual
I know everything.
What did he say?
I know the history of the Hyperions.
I have a gun. Okay? This is real. Now, just take a seat over there, and we'll be out of here in no time.
My favorite
awesome.
part is that reaction after she shoots the gun and the bit of the ceiling comes down, and it's just kind of like, oh, I love it. But what stood out to you in that scene?
Well, you've got they're so clearly out of their league on this. They're trying to pull off a robbery. They're sort of without their powers in many ways, so they're holding a gun for the first time. I mean, it's like all those hilarious things, and just getting schooled by the guy telling them, you know, you did it wrong, and this is how you do it. It's great. It's pure comedy. I just love. It's again, all these setups are so awesome. And then you just realize this sort of hilarious obsession with celebrity culture. And I've spent a lot of time around celebrities. Yeah. And the funny thing is when you walk into a restaurant or you're at an airport or whatever, and someone comes up to you and goes, I know you, you're famous, you know, to the actor I'm with or the movie star, but they don't know who it is. They just know something. And so it's a great moment.
It's perfect. Now, Scott, you mentioned something earlier about how Jon's precision and his choices really allowed the actors to be very creative and free with their choices. And specifically, you were impressed with Cary Elwes' performance. What specifically stood out to you?
It really the choices that he made on it, because when you see the dialogue and the action on a page, it's just words on a page, right? And we all know him from Princess Bride, and he's done a lot of other projects since then. But his choices in this one were so unique, and the characterization was so strong, and he kept it throughout. And what's interesting about it is the layers of an incredibly smart professor who also is kind of childlike in a way, and the way he acts and the way he kind of responds to things, even though he's also a father figure, and some of his mannerisms, it was spot on. And I think you just his best performance I've probably seen him in a while, and he's done some pretty good ones. So I think that says a lot. And
I love how he slumps his shoulders and then sticks out his belly.
Right.
It's such a strange posture, but he commits to it and he never breaks. Nope. It's always
never
in character.
The way his suit jacket is always kind of
the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome.
He's always a little uncomfortable almost, right? Like he's a little uncomfortable in his own skin and whatnot, and the way he speaks, the way he moves, and it just it works. It's obvious those are all those were choices, and it was great.
Well, and whenever you make a movie, you don't know which version of the actor is going to show up, right? Sometimes you get people who are so pumped up and they're ready to go and they're all in, and sometimes that can be too much. Other times you get people who are, complaining about their trailer and the hotel room isn't good enough and all these different things. And look, we do the best we can on independent movies. But for the most part, my experience has been pretty good, working with Vince Vaughn, Kurt Russell, all those guys. But in this case, Cary, you can see that he really went all in, right? You can't do that performance and still be questioning and hesitating and thinking through things and whatever. That is placing the trust in Jon McDonald, the writer-director, and saying, I'm all in, I'm gonna do this, let's have some fun.
Yep. And as an actor, I think, as I was watching it, you both made excellent points about his physical choices. I'm somebody that in order to get into a character, I have to do the physical first. I don't think that I can do the dialogue until I'm, moving and acting in a way that would fit those lines. And it's clear that, I don't know, in my view, that he probably made those choices way before he even, started verbalizing anything, making those choices of how to move, how to sit, how to hold himself. And it's fantastic to watch. But Scott, you had pulled a clip that is showing us a little bit of this, so I think we should go ahead and look at that.
Problem is, Maya, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, even though I'm not, I seem to remember her telling me she never wants to see me again. Ever.
She wouldn't tell me what was going on.
Can't you see what she's trying to do? She's trying to destroy me.
She's in trouble.
Yes, that's a great way to ask for help, isn't it? Taking hostages.
Wait. These are how she's been asking for help.
I thought I told you to get rid of those. You're making such a mess in here. Akiko, just clean.
Every month she writes you another letter. The least you could do is read one.
I don't need to read them. I know what's in them. They're probably just asking for more money.
Why can't you just let that go? She was upset.
Of course she's upset. Ripped from an orphanage, dragged to a beautiful mansion where there's... What's this? Caviar! Open trays of caviar all over the house. I mean, who has that?
Yeah, Scott, I'd love to know why you picked that clip and what stood out to you there.
Well, that goes back to Cary's performance and the choices he's making, and the, as you mentioned before, the body language, but also that layer of he's a father figure, he's a genius, he's these things, but he's also he's a little immature in how he's reacting, and that you kind of see probably where the problems were when the Penelope's character was a child. So, but the other part of it is he's holding the scotch and the cigarette and the one glove, which comes out. I don't know why there's a one glove, but there's one glove, and it's just hilarious. And the whole thing, it works. Nope.
Everything Jon did in this movie was methodical down to even Jon himself appears in the movie in a role later on in the film. And when we ended up Skyping with him for the first time, I thought, I know you. I've seen you before. You're that guy in that scene.
Shocker, you put yourself in your own movie. Now about Jon, so he's pretty new to Hollywood, but he did make a short film. I think it's back in 2011, and then he had made Muddy Corman about a failing high school in 2014. But this is his first big feature. What got him to this moment? And either of you can jump in here.
Well, it's so hard to get a movie made. I mean, it's harder than most people ever realize. So many things have to go right. You got to write a great script. You got to have the money coming together. You have to have producers that believe in you. You have to have an actor of some, substance that can drive sales and distribution and marketing and publicity. So it's very hard for all that stuff to come together. Many times I've had to put my, even once I put my own house up for mortgage just to get a movie made. So in the case of Jon, he was writing and directing these movies by himself, getting more and more attention, things like that. And then on this movie, he went and he helped raise the money to get it made. I mean, that's hard to do. And so, it takes time when you do all of those things and build the props and direct and all these. So he is exploding right now. I know he's getting phone calls from a bunch of agents right now, and it's a matter of time before he directs a bigger movie than even this.
Yeah. And Scott, as somebody who has worked with him closely as well, did you have any anecdotes about the creation of the film, what it was like working with him?
Well, like I said, we came on a little later than the actual production of it, so we came on a little later. But we were talking about the front animation and the credits and adding in credits, and we said, well, we just kind of have them created, drop them in. I said, no, it's not that simple. I was like, why isn't it that simple? You have the font, right? I mean, you can create the font, drop it in. I said, well, it's all hand done by Jon. Jon hand drew all of it, so he's gonna have to hand draw any additions. that makes a lot more sense. And yeah, okay, I get it now. All right. But and then he kind of did the same thing. We were creating some artwork, and it was from pictures, but then he actually painted it. He hand painted the artwork, the original poster we had. I was like, man, like what else what can you not do? It's just an impressive feat.
Mm-hmm. He's a filmmaking renaissance man, if you will.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to blow up after this?
I do. I do. I mean, certainly we would love to work with him again.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, I know, would as well. And you know, but if you're Netflix, if you're Warner Brothers, if you're Disney, you see what this guy can do for that little amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sign him up.
Mm-hmm.
Sign him up. So I think, you know, his next step will he'll get representation, proper representation. They will introduce him to the various you know, bigger studios and stuff like that. And from there, he'll have opportunities. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting.
And I'll say that you know, along with that, you don't know in Hollywood or in this industry. I hate saying Hollywood because it's now kind of everywhere, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what's going to happen and who's going to kind of blow up why, really. But the thing about Jon is he absolutely should be picked up, making much bigger movies with a whole team and company behind him. He deserves that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think audience would be much better for it.
And now, because he is so precise, were any of these, I think this is more for Scott, but were any of these scenes improvised? Was anything off the cuff, or was it very, you know, meticulous down to every line?
Well, he actually told me that a lot of the actors would rehearse with him in pre-production and stuff like that. So when you're making a movie, you try to get as much pre-production time as possible, and rehearsals are such a big thing, because when the actors get on set, if they're comfortable in the role already, because remember, some of them are fully method, meaning you have to call them by their character's name in between scenes that are shooting. Daniel Day-Lewis is the famous example of that. I worked with Wesley Snipes early in my career. He was the same way. And so you want to get as much rehearsal time as possible. So the improvisation, any improvising comes from that rehearsal process. Once you get to set, it's game on, right? And you're sticking to the script, and consider how precise Jon is with his shot selection, camera A, camera B, this, that, whatever. So it's all scripted. It's all there. Improvisation happens in pre-production.
Which I think a lot of people think of rehearsals as something that we do in the theater and in that regard. But it's a huge part of filmmaking, and
absolutely,
especially from the actor's perspective of needing to be comfortable and needing to know what risks they can take and how far they can go before they hit their breaking point.
And make all the bad ideas,
throw them out,
and make sure they're bad. It's. I'll tell you a few one day.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you think you've got to get it out of the way. You've got to make the bad choice, and sometimes it ends up being the one that sticks. Like, I can't tell you how many times it'll be like, I'm joking, and they're like, oh no, that's great.
Scott will agree with me. Scott will agree with me on this. It's always an accent. Everyone wants to try an accent.
Always.
Yeah.
And usually they're not great.
Sometimes they work, but sometimes they just decidedly do not. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I did have a few questions that came in from viewers. Do either of you know why Jon chose those 3 superpowers for the leads?
I think that they were universal. I think that they were superpowers that the audience members would all really want themselves. I certainly would. And you don't want to give someone superhuman strength to where they can end the movie right away. So you have to give people superpowers that are still human enough to where there can be a struggle.
Yeah, and the Vista character, hers is she can read minds, and she can get into someone's brain and mind and make them do something that she wants them to do. And I think what's fun about that in this movie is that you can see it's something that really gets under Carol Elwes' skin, like really gets under his skin. And you see that in the beginning, and why there would be some friction between them, and then of course I won't give anything away, but it does come into play in the end.
Yeah. And now, for anybody who maybe has not seen the film, needs a little nudge to watch it, or anybody who wants to reflect on it, what do you hope that viewers are going to take away from this film?
I would say it's just pure entertainment, and the takeaway. There's nothing outside of that as far as a takeaway. You look at the time period, which makes it visually interesting, and it's something that you can watch. The adults will certainly enjoy it. The kids can watch it. They will probably enjoy it as well. And you don't get that a lot these days. Usually it's one or the other. And this is something that everyone's really is. And I don't mean that as a cliche, but everyone really is going to enjoy it. It's a fun movie. It's a lot of fun to watch, and the performances are fantastic. And if you watch it and see it, you'll see what we're talking about with Jon and how he is a very unique talent as a director, and he's an up and coming director that you're gonna know.
Yeah, Scott's exactly right. I mean, it is pure entertainment, and that's something that you really can't expect from big Hollywood studios, and certainly the Hollywood Sundance independent movie world anymore, or even Netflix. I mean, right now, wait till you see this new Batman movie. It is so stunning, the cinematography and the composed score and the performances and things like that. And you get 85% of the way into the movie, and then there is such a left-wing sucker punch, you will not believe it. It's so out of control and out of nowhere. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and they're not even they're so used to it now, they're not even seeing it anymore. Everyone's talking about a show called Inventing Anna right now. And in that show, you have a bunch of journalists sitting around talking about, oh, I don't want to write another Melania story, and gosh, I wish the Obamas were back. It's just, they can't help themselves. It's so bad. It's almost like a badge of honor, right, to put that stuff in these movies now. And in fact, if a Hollywood director doesn't put them in the movie, it will not be promoted to the extent that the movie should be promoted. It is a testament to Jon that he didn't put that stuff in the movie, that he doesn't have the left-wing sucker punch in the third act. And therefore, I think this movie deserves to be watched. And it's like Scott said, pure entertainment. So I'm really proud that Daily Wire's acquired the movie.
So I loved it, and it's been wonderful hearing your inside information, and I know that our audience will love it. But that is all that we have time for today. I want to thank you, my guests, Hyperion executive producer Scott Martin and Bonfire Legend CEO Dallas Sonnier. I hope you enjoyed our behind-the-scenes coverage of the Hyperions. To see all of the films from Daily Wire, please go to dailywire.com and hit subscribe. I'm Brett Cooper. Thank you for watching and listening.
My name is Vista Mandelbaum. My brother and I have taken 4 hostages.
Everybody against the wall.
We've come for one thing. Our Titan badges.
Is this real?
Yes, ma'am, this is real. Can I sign this?
Well, I want that too.
It's the police. They want to talk to whoever's in charge.
This Titan badge can grant an individual superhuman power. Perhaps it's time for someone else to take on the responsibility. Meet Apollo.
I'd recommend next time using your power.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you think so.
Calling all Hyperions.
On my way.
You're making such a mess in here.
We've got a Hyperion en route. Not a good time to look stupid.
Shots fired! God, run! Give me my gun!
Suit up for adventure.
She's trying to destroy me.
Next question, how's the family?
The family is, gosh, what is it?
Marvelous.